Hi there, Neil Whitfield here with day 14 of my small business marketing tips. Yesterday I talked about developing a 60-second elevator pitch. So having done that, what are you going to do with it? Well, one of the first things that you can do is to register for a conference or a trade show. This is something that I've done throughout my career, really, whether working sort of client side or agency side or when running my own businesses. I've always found it useful to get out of the office, to go along to a trade show, whether it's something specific to your industry, a general sort of business conference, or actually something completely unrelated. It's always useful, and I always think that whilst it may cost you time out of the office, it may cost you money for a ticket, although many of them are free. It may cost you a little bit of travel and accommodation, but I've never been to one of these conferences or trade shows without getting something valuable from it. So I would definitely suggest you do have a look. See what's firstly in your local area. There's sites like Eventbrite and Meetup.com where you'll be able to see what's coming up sort of in your local town or city. Very often there are local events taking place in most towns and cities, depending on where you are. If you're wanting to go to something larger or more industry specific, then you may need to go to one of the biggest towns or cities, or if you're wanting one of the really big events, then the NEC in Birmingham or one of the London venues. But I'd certainly start out just locally. There will be, I'm sure, something for you, whether it's particularly specific to your industry or whether it's just something that's a general business or small business conference or event. Definitely worth going along. I mean, you will get benefit from it, in a number of ways. It's a great networking opportunity. Yes, it can be uncomfortable to strike up a conversation with a stranger at one of these events, but you're given the chance to do that for perhaps if you're listening to a seminar or something like that. Well, you can perhaps strike up a conversation with someone who sat next to you, or you can strike up a conversation while you're waiting for a coffee or something like that. Yeah, it might be uncomfortable, but get out of your comfort zone and start having conversations with people. Chances are you or they are probably carrying a carrier bag or a brochure or something like that in your hand, so you can always use that as a means of striking up conversation. I would strongly suggest, if you are going to a conference, do engage in and actively participate in all of the the seminars or talks that are available. It's amazing what you can learn. Yes, depending on the sort of event it is, there may be an element of sales pitch at the end, but most of the presenters will be delivering good, informative content, and it's amazing what you can pick up. And it may be something that you want to catch up with the presenter later and actually see if there's a business relationship that you can have. I've been a visitor to many conferences and trade shows, and I've also been an exhibitor, and I think you can get a lot of benefit just from visiting and wandering around. It's amazing what business you can actually pick up without having to go to the trouble and the expense of having a stand or anything like that, just through speaking to the businesses who have got stands, having a chat to them about what you do, obviously swapping business cards and making sure that everybody fully understands what that means from a GDPR compliance point of view, which is again something I've covered off previously, and I'm sure we'll cover off again. GDPR coming in May of this year. I was just reading something on one of the Facebook groups this morning where there was a big debate about something I touched on last week about business cards and whether the act of giving someone a business card gives you permission to opt them into a database. The short answer is nobody really knows. The long answer is it would be better to perhaps either opt them in using a lead page on a tablet or something like that at the time, or alternatively you can just make it explicitly clear what you're going to do with the business card, make them aware that they will receive an email, and at that point they can either opt in or not. So that's a bit of a tangent about GDPR and business cards and all that sort of stuff, but it is relevant. So yeah, swap business cards and follow it up as you see fit. A phone call or a conversation might be nice. And take advantage of all the learning opportunities. One final tip, I think depending on where you are, this will determine the opportunities for this, how many venues there are that hold such events. But one thing that I have done for as long as I can remember is not just restrict myself to trade shows and conferences in the industry that I'm particularly in. I think you can find innovative ways of doing things from other industries, unrelated industries. So I would always make a point of going along to a trade show or a conference for what might to some seem like a completely random, unconnected industry. But if you go along and you listen to the speakers and you have a chat to the suppliers and you see how people in other industries do things, it's amazing what interesting ideas you can bring back and apply them in your business. And chances are, if it's not the accepted way of doing things in your industry, then that will mark you out as having a bit of a competitive advantage. So first things first, start with the basics, get along to a local sort of general small business conference, pick a subject area that's of interest to you, go along to something that's relevant to your industry, but then a more sort of advanced ninja level would be to get along to conferences or trade shows that have got nothing to do with the industry that you're in, because you're likely to pick up interesting new ways of doing things that you can bring back into your business. So I'll wrap that up there. That's today's tip. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks, bye.